Hi y'all, and welcome back to the garden. There is a mess out here of trees and things. I've been out here this evening moving some things around. When they delivered the trees earlier this week, the guy that actually delivered them offered to plant some of them for me. He has a bobcat with a big auger, so I took him up on that because I'll show you some of these root balls and they're massive. None of these things ever look so big in person. Then you get them home and you're like, how am I going to dig this hole and put that tree in there? Luckily I have a tractor so I can push things around, but having an auger would be really nice. So I'm going to go through some of the things I got. I can't remember the prices on everything. I actually had a sheet on my clipboard that I took with me, and I can't find it right now, and it's getting dark, and I want to shoot this video this evening. So tomorrow these trees will be planted. I've moved some of them around, not all of them, but most of them will be planted. I've moved some of them around today because I sat here and laid on the front steps here and just thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. So I really wanted to put this Kindred Spirit Oak right here. And I decided to put it there, and I'll take you over there and show you it in a bit. But I was concerned about leaves getting in the gutter because they don't get very wide. They only get maximum 6 foot wide over time, but it's already pretty much tall enough that it would meet that gutter system, and I'm afraid of leaves just falling in there in the fall and filling up the gutter and then having drainage issues. So I got this huge boxwood that I showed you, and I've kept it tied up to make it easier to plant. I will of course show you after we get it planted, but it's pretty, like, it'll probably come out to here on both sides at least after the twine's cut off, and it'll probably be like, you know, the Christmas Vacation movie where he just cuts the twine and it goes woof. It'll probably be like that, so that'll be fun. This is the Rising Sun Redbud that I showed you in the last video. It's going to go right here. I am estimating putting a path kind of off the sidewalk here to get to the side yard, at least through there. There might be another one that kind of winds through there, I don't know, but there at least needs to be one to get around to the side yard so you don't have to go all the way around the sidewalk and all the way back around. And I may do a pea gravel. I'm not sure exactly there. Probably it would be nice to do some paver stones in the future, but temporarily I've got all of the stone out back. That might be a winter project to come out here and line it with some brick and then dump some pea gravel in there. This is a Royal Star Magnolia, so you may notice some of my plans changed. When I was designing that picture, which I'll show on the screen again, a week or so ago, it was before I went to Brown's sale last Saturday, and so because I was concerned some of the things right here were going to get too big, so this was originally going to be, the Venus Dogwood is still there, but this was going to be, I think, the Carolina Sweetheart Redbud, but it makes me really nervous because Redbuds can get really big, and I didn't want that so close to the house and creating like this massive shade garden, which would be beautiful in the future, but I don't want to deal with the leaves and the gutters like I mentioned. So this will stay much smaller than that, and it has very beautiful star-like blooms on it in the spring and early summer, like a lot of redbuds did. And I do remember how much I paid for this, and I think it was $65 or $75, between $65 and $75. So as an example of great deals you can get if you go to Brown's, I would recommend you go next year if you're local to the area, and even if you're in Indiana, it's worth the drive. You can't pick up the trees until Sunday, but be looking for things that people aren't really like super excited about getting. Like, people are all over the maples paying absurd prices for some things, but things like this that are specimen trees, just people weren't bidding on them quite as much, and it was the end of the day, and so a lot of people had got their feel. $65 to $75 right there, and it's a really, like, that's an instant statement piece, and it will be beautiful next spring. Right here, as I showed you, this is the Kindred Spirit Oak. They get about 6 foot wide in their maturity and maybe 30 foot tall. They do produce some tiny acorns, which would be good for decorating, but not a huge amount. And since they don't get super wide, they're not going to litter the ground or anything. They do have really pretty leaves and turn a beautiful yellow color in the fall. These are the same, or this is the same tree that I had at my last house. I created a hedge of like 5 of them between me and my neighbor. and they're just really beautiful. And this was a really good size too. I don't remember exactly how much I paid for this, but I think it was $120-ish for a tree that size already. Oop, there we go. This is a woodward or woodwardy arborvitae. I kind of randomly picked this one up. It was the end of the day, and I was looking for some evergreens at that time. And it was this interesting shade of like bluish green that was different from all the other arborvitae. And I got it pretty cheap. So it actually can get pretty big. I think like 6 foot tall and wide. Arborvitae can be trimmed, but I thought it'd be nice to have a evergreen statement right here, kind of in the middle back center of this bed, next to the structure of this oak. I did end up putting the Venus dogwood, which I showed you on the last video, right here. And one of the reasons is because you should be able to see it in spring out of these windows in the dining room, which I think will be really nice. Down this way, we have a star power juniper, which is going to be my blue evergreen accent in this spot. It is a gorgeous evergreen, but it is very prickly. It'll get maybe 7 to 8 foot wide, 10 to 15 foot tall, I think, but it'll take some time to get there. And I've laid out enough space here that it'll have plenty of room to grow in without ever having to be pruned on. Lots of space. This bed is probably deeper than it appears on screen, or it will be when it's done. This is the stellar pink dogwood I went over in the last video. This is where I'm going to be placing it as well, and so it's far enough from the sidewalk here, and it's got enough room to grow in every direction, and then we can underplant it in the spring with some other shrubs, hydrangeas, that type thing. We got the Crimson Century Maple that I went over in the last video, and this is going to be its spot. It can get 15 foot wide, and so it'll grow this way and this way, never meeting the driveway, and then out that way, and the bed's going to continue through here. We have some red Pointe Maples, which I don't know where I'm putting yet, and I'm not going to be planting this weekend. I'm going to end up moving them to the back and make sure they get sufficient water with everything else. But these may get interplanted in between the crabapples there, because those will eventually have to come out. They're looking pretty rough, so if I plant a trio there in between the existing trio of crabapples, when those get removed in a few years, it won't be a huge loss of structure in that area. I picked up just some pyramidal yews that are going to go alongside the doorway as a boxwood alternative. People tend to be kind of steering away from yews these days, but I kind of like them. I had them at my other house and I removed them because they were really overgrown. They were seemed like they were as big as my car. I know they weren't that big, but it seemed like it. And so as long as you keep them trimmed, they're a really good topiary, and they live for a very long time. So we're going to be doing some yews. I got 3 of them. I got a trio, so we're going to do one on either side of the door and probably dot one somewhere in this bed as a statement piece. We could put it on the corner here as just an evergreen weight that could get as big as it wanted to out in that space. I got another oak. This one is Skinny Jeans, which is kind of a cousin to Kindred Spirit, but it gets a little wider. It'll get up to 10 foot wide. It is a 𝗖𝗢𝗏𝗡𝗧𝗦 bred tree, I believe, and I really love a lot of the trees they have. A lot of the ones I picked up may be in their catalog. I know the red Pointe Maple is. They're based in Oregon, and they breed some really good trees. So kind of similar to Kindred Spirit, gets a little wider. And back there, I'll show you in a minute, that's a Thundercloud Plum. I originally had it placed up here, but I did a lot of moving around this evening. And since that was red, this Crimson Century, I also didn't want red right here. I wanted to keep the red kind of spread throughout instead of a big block. So I ended up moving this oak, which was back there, because I didn't want too many oaks like right behind each other either. This right here, guys, is probably one of my favorite finds. This is a redbud clump, just a native redbud, and it is glorious. $100 is what I paid for it. And it is beautiful. Perfect structure. Really excited to get this one in the ground, and it's going to go where this X is. So it's far enough from the driveway. It can grow and get pretty large. The driveway spreads right here, so if it does start creeping into the driveway a little bit, we can limit back some. But gorgeous, gorgeous specimen that is an instant garden for you. This is one of the first trees that I won, and it's the one I paid the most for, and I paid $180 for it at the auction. So really beautiful leaves, really beautiful structure. Look how thick that trunk is already. And I'll be happy to get this one in the ground. Beeches grow pretty slow. This one says it could ultimately get 40 foot wide. It will be a really long time before that happens, I suspect. But I placed it far enough away from this maple, which I don't know if it shows on the screen, but I measured 40 feet out, or 20 feet in both directions, because it's 40 feet on center. And to make sure none of these trees would touch at their max size that I found online from the breeders. Out here, we have a really big tree that I also paid $100 for. And it is an exclamation London plane tree. They have huge leaves on them. It's looking kind of rough. Kept it watered here, but it's not been luckily too hot, but this will get planted tomorrow and it'll be much happier. But it has nice exfoliating bark, which it's not doing right now in this age so much. Well, you can see a little bit here, but it's real pretty. And this is going to be the biggest tree. I think it also gets like 40 foot tall and wide, somewhere around there. It'll be the biggest one on the property, most likely, in a very long time, of course. So really, really beautiful tree. I did get a horse chestnut out here because they do produce those spiny balls. I wasn't intending, I didn't come to get that, but they were trying to get rid of them, and I think I got it for like $70. And they're really beautiful. This one's called Autumn Splendor. They have really beautiful fall color, and it's out here far enough that I won't have to worry about those spiky balls so much close to the house. But it could also be like a nice decorative element that I could add, to things in the fall as they change color and as it produces those. This is also one of the most favorite things I got, and I was recommended to get one of these. This is a Perodia, yellow ironwood, I think is what it's called, or an ironwood. I can't remember how much I paid for this one. It was like $70 to $100, I think, too, and it's got a massive trunk. And I really think this branch structure of this tree is really gorgeous. And it has really interesting leaves, you can see there. But this is one of the biggest root balls I think I have, other than the boxwood. So it'll be a monster to plant. Actually, probably not with the auger. It's a 36-inch auger. So it should cover most of that root ball, and we'll be able to get it in the ground pretty easily. I got another juniper here in this pile of trees that I think I skipped over. This one is called, I'll have to put the name on the screen. It's like 𝗬𝗓𝗧𝗦 or something like that, but it stays fairly small. Not sure where I'm going to put it yet, and I'll probably end up planting this one myself because the root ball is actually not offensive or anything, so I can move it with the tractor and get it planted, but it stays smaller than the star power juniper, so it could go on the back side of the house as an accent. It's not quite as blue as the star power, I don't think, or it doesn't appear so as the sun's going down, but still a really beautiful tree that's an alternative to like a spruce for color. Those blue spruces, these are the pyramidal yews. I do think I went over those. I did get a couple dwarf arborvitae. I don't know that these they're just dwarf globe arborvitae. So I don't know if that's the specific name or if they just had them named that for the auction, but I did get two of those. One's here and one's over there. I'm going to put them, I think, as accent entrance shrubs, since they say so tiny. So I'm going to put one here and one here. And then right here where this butterfly bush is going to be like a pinpoint blue juniper or something that gets really skinny and goes upright and it's blue. So we'll have that blue accent on the corner, two entrance shrubs, and then this will be planted up, of course, with all sorts of things over the coming years. I picked up a Thundercloud Plum. It's not something that I probably would have ever planted at my other house because I didn't really have the space for it, but I've wanted one for years. Plums and cherries concern me about diseases, but now that I have enough space here, I'm not afraid to grow things like this, because if I don't like it, I can just cut it down and plant something else. Or if it's carrying a lot of disease, I can get rid of it. And I also just have the space to try things. And because I didn't at the other house, and I didn't want to spend time growing something that would be eventually cut down, I didn't. And so now that I have space, I'm going to. And I spaced it here in the background, so it'll contrast nicely between these green maples, but also this Kindred Spirit. It's kind of hidden by the Kindred Spirit, but when it grows up and gets bigger, it'll be a nice contrast of color against the Kindred Spirit, so you'll be able to see the Kindred Spirit better. And so as I was laying all of these things out today, and I do have a couple more things I'll show you, I was walking on the sidewalk, seeing how everything would look, walking down the sidewalk from every direction, going out in the yard and looking back. And I would encourage you to do that if you're designing a space, just so you know, like here, straight forward, is the Royal Star Magnolia. So it'll be a really beautiful focal point in the spring when it's blooming. And then as you come towards the house, we're going to have these concrete planters, which I got to get moved over, and some pyramidal yews kind of tucked in. The big boxwood's going to be here. And if you look out this way, you have the globe arborvitae, and there'll be the Venus dogwood and the Kindred Spirit Oak, and then this rising Sun Redbud, which will be all sorts of beautiful colors in the fall and spring. And so you just want beauty in every direction, and that's what I'm going for here. There'll probably be a lilac planted here, one of the double bloomerang. I think there's Per Pink is a new one that I have in from Proven Winners that I'm going to be planting here. That'll get pretty large and be a lovely like smell and reblooming variety for next to the sidewalk. I didn't have any lilacs in my last garden, and I want this space to be inviting and smell beautiful when you walk in for visitors. I did get some taxus to fill in. You may have seen in the design I showed last time, 3 evergreens right here. Behind them are going to be climbing roses on eventually what will be an trellis system that I've got to find what my favorite is, but these were $20 a piece, and they need to be shaped, but I couldn't beat that for getting some really like full-size shrub impact here quickly. So there's a landscape light right behind the center one that'll shine up on the wall, so when the roses get planted there, I still need to come pressure wash before I plant these in here. It'll be really beautiful, I think, with these very tight globes that I'll probably keep about the size they are right now. And roses behind there. This weekend, I'm going to get a lot of these things planted, but I also hope to get the shade garden planted that I cleaned out. It's been a couple weeks now, but I got a lot of hostas and things in. I got all my stuff finally to plant that bed in, so I'll be working on that to get it completed. It's a sneak peek. Here's some of the things. I also got some interesting shrubs from Great Garden Plants that I ordered that will go probably up here as well in this space. But look at those beautiful hostas. Picked up some 𝗂𝗏𝗧𝗦. Okay, sneak peek over. The last thing I got was some green giant arborvitae, and these are already 11 foot tall. So these are going to replace and provide some privacy as an alternative to the blue spruces that were here. And probably next month we are going to get a stump grinder and grind down the stumps from the blue spruces. Our neighbor just cut down some trees, and he said he would get one next month and he would let us borrow it, which is really nice. Good to have good neighbors that will let you do those things. So these will start creating a hedge here, and this will be my test for deer. Deer and arborvitae. So we'll see if they snack on these over winter, and if they don't, I am going to plant more arborvitae, probably like I did at the other house, around the back side of the fence, some tiny skinny ones, and on the front side of the fence will be hydrangeas. By the way, I don't think I ever showed it in a video, but several weeks ago I came through and mowed down this entire bed that was back here because it was so weedy and I needed to get it under control. And to prepare it, because I need to come through and dig out some soil that's actually around the fence. This fence is steel, and there doesn't need to be soil around the bottom to prevent rust and damage to it. So there's a lot of work that needs to go here. This is the bed that I really wanted to get done this fall. And I had to shift those priorities because it was such a mess. It was not going to get done, which is sad. And I don't love it, but it is what it is. I wanted a beautiful hydrangea hedge there next spring. I may still get to that and plant it in the spring, but first I got to take care of that invasive gooseneck loosestrife that was in there as well. I was really concerned about planting stuff in it and not getting that completely eradicated, which I'm probably gonna have to dig out. I don't know. I just cut it all down. That's what I did with it for now. And if it starts coming back up, and it will, I'll deal with it as it comes back up. It'll be easier, but to suppress it a little bit and kill it right during the heat of summer, because it was really hot right before I did that, and get control over it. That's what I had to do, and that's what we're working with right now. The last tree, which I did show you in the last video, this Midnight Express Redbud, I'm going to put it right here. I was originally going to put the Skinny Jeans oak here, but when I decided to keep the Kindred Spirit in this location, I didn't want like one upright oak and another upright oak right next to each other, unless there was going to be a trio and I didn't have a third one. So the Redbud's going to go right here, and it will be a really nice red, dark purple pop of color behind all of these things, especially this Rising Sun Redbud, which will be shades of yellow, orange, and green. Lastly, I've got some interesting things in. I'm going to try and help save this Japanese maple. This summer really did it in. It looked really bad before we moved in, and it just got progressively worse because we had almost no rain and it's right here baking against this brick. But I'm going to get it lots of water over the coming months going into winter, and hopefully it will leaf out really well for me in the spring, and just keep that water on it to keep it happy. Trying to determine where I'm going to put this oak leaf hydrangea. This is Snow Sickle. It's in a Proven Winners container, but that's because I dug it up from the last property before I moved. It's not a Proven Winners variety, but it's really beautiful. It's a double improvement on icicle. Stays shorter, but also really pretty. So this is not going to be its location because I think it would get too big there, but I'm thinking about sticking it behind these boxwoods. That way it can kind of fall over these boxwoods if it needs to. So probably here, maybe in the center of this wall is where it will go. Then I can tap directly into that drip irrigation line and give it lots of water. Never got around to pruning these boxwoods yet, but I'm going to get these things planted first, and then we will prune them all at the same time before I put mulch down, because I don't want to obviously put mulch in and make a mess on top of it the best I can. Even though this is getting kind of messy as it goes on, this will be refreshed again next year after I finish planting in it, hopefully. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope this is exciting. I will try and get some footage of the auger and the bobcat as we plant some of these trees, but since it's someone else doing the work, I don't like to record a whole lot of people. Sometimes it can be awkward asking them, but I'll try and get some clips if I can make sure that they're not in the video to show you, because that should be really interesting. And then the next video, I'll show you after they're planted and tell you about how nice and hopefully easy that process was. But my goal would be to get all the stuff that is ball and burlap in the ground this weekend, so I don't have to continue watering it over and over every day. Thank you guys for joining me, and remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. See you soon. Bye.